As a doll enthusiast and artist and customizer who occasionally disassembles dolls, I've unintentionally invited a lot of comparison to Sid from Toy Story. You know, the kid who tried to blow up Buzz Lightyear in the first movie. Well, I'm here today to validate those comparisons by making Sid's masterpiece creation, legs, into a real doll. Hello artists, artists, and art appreciators. Welcome back to the channel. I will be making legs today, although with a bit of a twist. I want this to be like my own, more glam spin on legs, so I'll be altering some aspects of her design and colors to match my vision, and also things that I already had that I could use. Jumping right into it, this is 1990 Wedding Day Midge, who was sold both in a single pack and a wedding party pack. These photos are from Toy Sisters. And yes, that's the same Midge who was in the controversial Happy Family Midge pack, which was shown in the Barbie movie. She was actually married for like a decade before she had that baby, but whatever. But I like the face of this 1991 more than that later one anyways. It's more glam. I like the early 90s Barbie's faces a lot more than the modern ones, so that's why I picked this one up at a thrift store when I was there. She didn't come with her wedding dress or anything. After I washed Midge and combed her hair, I got to cutting off her legs, and also I removed her head just so it wouldn't get damaged. I mean, she's going to be legs from Toy Story, so obviously I'm not going to be using the upper body and head of this, but I wanted to keep them intact. At first I tried cutting straight through the middle of it, not knowing how the Barbie was constructed. I didn't look it up or anything. When it became clear that cutting through the middle would be too difficult, I instead started cutting the side seam of the body, which was kind of a weaker spot where I could cut more easily. This took a while. It was not the safest. I don't recommend following my footsteps. Maybe get like a Dremel saw or something. I have a Dremel and it has saws, but I don't know where the saw blades went to, so I did it all by hand. Let's talk about Legs' construction. She has a pair of doll legs, Barbie-esque, with a fishing rod incorporated as the body. Now, the original Legs from Toy Story has this very wide stance. Her legs are attached to the outside of the reel of a toy fishing rod. I have to applaud Sid for his ingenuity here, but I wasn't sure I could pull this off myself with the tools I have, and do it well. First of all, the cat toy that I was actually using for this project didn't even have a reel. I also wanted my legs to be structurally sound. As I found out while taking the body apart, the body on these is surprisingly strong. I was hesitant to just rip the legs off because I knew that reattaching them would be much harder than it looks once broken. There's a real likelihood that the legs would be too loose to hold a pose well or would be visibly damaged in other ways. So instead of taking the legs off the hips and combined it with the hips, I used the whole lower half of the body, including that hip area, and I just did an illusion that the fishing reel was sort of blending in with the body. I created a template with a piece of paper and traced that on the computer, and then I used my new laser cutter and engraver to precisely cut out the outline of the reel. And also I engraved a little design inspired by the original legs. If you haven't seen my laser engraving video, you can go watch it. The algorithm didn't like that one, but I made lots of cool stuff in it. I promise that I don't pimp stuff just because I have an affiliate link, although I do, but it was really useful for this project as well as that project. Anyways, the resulting circle of the reel is sort of centered on the pivoting joint of the leg, so it doesn't look like the circle itself moves back and forth. It's just cutting into the leg and spins pretty much perfectly with it. They basically look like they're spinning on the same axle as the legs are. I wanted the rod itself to be able to pivot side to side and hinge up and down, and since I was using the hips anyways, I decided to keep that little mushroom-shaped bit at the top of the Barbie hips. The original doll torso essentially closes around the mushroom-shaped bit tightly in order to rotate, and there's actually a little teardrop at the back that prevents the body from spinning around completely. I recreated this part of the torso using the laser cut wood in half circles. I actually cut 2 circles with half circles, so 4 half circles, because it had to be thicker than just one piece of wood. But then I actually ended up cutting into the top layer because I wanted the upright pieces of wood with the holes in them to sort of sit in the upper circle of wood, if that makes sense. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing on the screen. Please note, I used a lot of super glue in this project, which I don't recommend. It's not my favorite glue, is what I've learned. I'm not sure why I did. I bought super glue recently. My other glues, my wood glue, is completely messed up. I don't have that much hot glue left. Well, I did use some in this project, and my like other glue is all crusty. Unfortunately, it turns out super glue does not play nice with vinyl. Also, because super glue expands while curing, that leaves it with like an odd texture and makes it really easy to overdo the amount of glue. So just all around, bad idea, bad time. The fishing rod itself, by the way, is just, like I said, an old cat toy. It broke because we sat on it or something, so it's out of commission anyways. The cats don't need it. In case you're wondering, nowadays we use a wooden stick that I got at the craft store for making tiny wooden furniture as a cat toy. We like tied a string on the end. The cats really like it. So I cut this broken fishing rod down a little bit more, and I also used part of the rod in the hinge because it was just about the right size to be sort of the tilted axle part. I did want to keep the fishing rod retractable, so like I wanted to be able to adjust how far in and out the fishing rod can go, but it was a complete struggle. It's quite difficult to get those tolerances right, because I also had to shorten the rod. So I just ended up gluing the top bit in place. Technically, this is more movie accurate to Legs, whose fishing rod is taped together in the middle, which is a fun detail. So the creator of Legs is obviously Sid from Toy Story. And I find Sid kind of an interesting character. I watched some videos for this one to see what other people discuss. Mostly I found them pretty boring because a lot of them are just like overly dark and dramatizing the whole movie, I guess. I did like the My Little Thought Tree video on his psychology the most out of him. Mostly because it was one of the only ones that didn't go, he's a psychopath. That seems to be the internet's view of Sid the child from the Toy Story movie. I mean, I can't really defend Sid being like a little shit to his sister Hannah and stealing and breaking her toys. Like, that's bad. That's a mean thing to do. But people seem to react to Sid the same way that Woody and Buzz react to him in the movie. Like, he's horrifying, he's scary, he's torturing, and he's a sadist, and I don't know, like, grow up. He's a kid. Once you're an adult, you can't be scared of that anymore. Come on. He doesn't know his toys are alive. He's playing pretend that he's a doctor or, Frankenstein or whatever. The horror of the movie is literally that the way we interact with inanimate objects can be seen as horrifying from their perspective. But, like, it's scary because we know that the toys are alive. Like, Sid doesn't know that until the end of the movie, where he's presumably scarred for life. I do wonder, like, did Sid break all of his toys on purpose, or did they break on accident? And Sid has a dog, Scud, who breaks toys, so maybe the dog started breaking toys and Sid began fixing them. Or maybe his toys broke in another way and he figured out how to glue them back together. The thing is, none of this matters much for the context of the Toy Story story, since it's from the perspective of the toys. But, I mean, if we're gonna psychoanalyze Sid, then you'd think that we should give him some benefit of the doubt and not assume the worst, you know? I guess as an artist, I'm defending him because I would also consider Sid an artist. He's very creative and he uses things that are broken. Granted, he did break some of them himself. But, so do I, just in maybe a more controlled manner. Although he does have, like, a clamp and everything, so he is pretty controlled when he wants to be. I don't know, glass houses. How can I judge him? Sid clearly fixes toys that are broken, just putting them together in unique ways. I can't really blame people for comparing me to Sid, even when I'm not as extreme. I'm clearly not as creative as him. I don't really mind the comparison. Sid made some cool stuff. I really love the spider baby and the buff duck. And of course legs. There's also a car with hands and legs instead of wheels, which is very funny. Most of those were on the list of things that I wanted to make, but I just went with legs because, I don't know, she's a doll, so that's the most appropriate thing for my channel, which has clear doll theming. Maybe people are so scared of Sid because of the awful human animation in Toy Story 1. I mean, the reason they made a movie about toys was because animating humans at the time didn't look very good, and Sid in particular has a rough go of it. He does appear as a cameo in, like, Toy Story 3. Also, as a side note, people keep calling this a theory. It's not a theory, guys. Like, the people who wrote the movie, they included a character who's very obviously Sid, who has, like, a skull and listens to, like, I don't know, heavy metal or whatever, which is, like, one of his, like, things where he has posters all over his room that are, like, rock bands. Because rock is scary, guys. Listening to rock bands might mean that you're a toy murderer. So it's just like, it drives me crazy that people are like, it's a theory that he's a garbage man in Toy Story 3, and it's like, no, it's obviously not a theory. It's obviously just something that the creators intended to put in as a cameo on purpose. Anyways, it drives me crazy. And then he's a garbage man, which people like to make, like, fun of. But, like, being a garbage man can pay really well. Looks like he's still into music, whatever. I have nothing else to say about that other than I hope he went to art school with his sanitation worker money so that he can make some cool sculptures, because he seems very artsy. And he clearly needs some sort of outlet. He kind of reminds me of my uncle who, like, got an art degree but then also joined the military so he could blow stuff up. I would prefer that they both stick with the art thing, but whatever. I think the real message of Sid was to kids watching the movie, so that the producers could say, hey kids, stop breaking your toys. Your parents paid a bunch of money for those toys, and you should respect them a little bit nicer. Which I can't disagree with. I was very careful with my toys as a kid, and if it wasn't for them getting lost at times, they would be intact to this day. But a lot of other people do talk about intentionally breaking their toys, like it's a very common childhood thing. Whether they want to see the insides and the mechanics of the toy, whether they're just doing it for fun, because whatever, and, you know, you can consider it an aspect of creativity that people want to take things apart. I don't know. At least if they, I don't know, I was going to say at least if they put them back together, but I don't know, maybe taking stuff apart can be its own art form as well. I'm not the arbiter of what is considered creative. I don't know, there's a reason that Weird Barbie was in the Barbie movie. I would never cut my Barbie's hair as a kid, but some people consider it like a rite of passage. That's the second Barbie movie reference in this video, I'm not sure why. Back to what I'm doing. I can talk about some of the changes that I made to Legs' design. Like I said at first, I wanted to do glam legs. I had no idea what I meant by that. I did draw this version of Legs a while back with fishnet stockings and this sort of like anglerfish moment going on at the light bulb. I was also toying with the idea of making her more bug-like because she reminded me of a praying mantis with her green thorax. Anyways, that all shifted when I had a conversation with my cousin about the idea of glam legs, trying to figure out how to glam legs up. I told her the idea, and she was immediately like, oh, you should give her a designer purse. Like a Chanel bag with the logos on it. I had not thought of that at all because I am not fashionable. I wanted to make fashionable legs, but I don't know anything about fashion. The purse I carry around is a plush version of Mothman. So, yeah. She suggested that I do the shoes with red soles, which is apparently a reference to Louboutin heels. I think that's how you pronounce that. I never looked it up. It's the one where it looks like it says Louis Vuitton, but she kept saying Louboutin, so I'm gonna say Louboutin as if I don't know, I'm just copying her. And also make the bag with the Louboutin type of pattern on it, which is like a very specific thing that says like LV. So I designed like a parody of the Louboutin bag with a similar pattern, but a TS for Toy Story instead of LV. And I also laser engraved some scrap leather for the bag. I did do a test piece where I tried to color the engraved areas, but it just didn't work out well. Like the gold color got everywhere, so I decided to just keep it like the dark engraving. I painted some tiny strips for the decorations on the bag and used some ribbons for some other bits because they were thinner. But honestly, I wasn't happy with this, and it looks different later, so expect that. Anyways, I'm gonna fix that afterwards, but first I want to show you the hand-sculpted highlight of the hour, an accessory I made to go with the bag. Yes, this is me jumping on the Labubu bandwagon, I guess. I mean, not really, because I'm hand sculpting this one, and I'm not gonna shell money for an overpriced art doll. Even if I think it's kind of cute. I'll get one at like a thrift store next year. But I just thought it would be funny to do a keychain Labubu. As soon as my cousin mentioned like a purse, I was like, I gotta do a Labubu on the purse. If you didn't know, a lot of the Labubu trend sort of started by like, I guess rich people on TikTok putting these on designer bags. I just thought it would be funny to sculpt my own tiny Labubu for the purse, and I actually flocked it instead of using like fuzzy fabric. I don't know anything about the Labubu trend because I don't have TikTok and I don't really use Instagram so much, so, you know, forgive me if I'm a little fuzzy on the origins, but she was pretty asymmetrical, kind of uneven, up close especially, but it was very fun to make the tiny Labubu sculpture. I mean, it was very difficult, but it was very fun. I love sculpting tiny things, and it just made me want to do a lot more sculpting, like by hand. I honestly, I need more clay. I think that's what I need. I need more like either polymer clay or even like air dry clay I haven't used in a while. I'd like that. The thing is, air dry clay, like all of mine dried out, so I haven't used it in a while because I don't want to get more because then it'll dry out again unless I have a big project for it, and I have so many other projects going on at the time, like right now. But maybe if I got some polymer clay, then I'd be able to do like some little pieces here and there, and I wouldn't have to worry about it drying out, so. Anyways, what was I talking about? I have a script for this video, but sometimes I get off script. I finished the bag and the Labubu, like, pretty early on in the timeline of the project, and I had a lot of time to reflect while working on the other parts. And also while being sick. By the way, the reason this video is so late is because I've been sick. I've had an ear infection for like 2 weeks, and it turns out that ear infections are awful. They're absolutely the worst. Like, I was in so much pain for like a week. This was supposed to be my like Halloween video, and I would have been able to get it done earlier in the month if not for that. I had finished like a lot of the main parts before I got sick, unfortunately. But alas. Anyways, after kind of reflecting on it, I ended up deciding I didn't like the bag so much. I pulled off all of the painted pieces and I put the bag back together with hot glue and wishes very quickly. I do think it looks much cleaner now. I sort of wish the ribbons were the right color. I'm considering painting them cream, but I just don't have time to go back and do that for this video. They're also kind of like iridescent. which I'm not sure if I like. I'm still happier with it as it is once it's completed and like the new version. There's still some marks from where the glue was on the first version, but it's a small price to pay for me not disliking it so much. I might try to do this whole like engraving and making a tiny bag again in the future, and then maybe I can make it a little bit better. Stockings. Of course, the original legs has just like heels, no stockings or anything, but I planned for mine to have stockings from the beginning, or fishnets technically. I couldn't find any small enough fishnets in time, and also it probably would have been really annoying to sew on at this scale. I'm not sure at all how to do doll stockings at this scale. It seems very difficult. But instead I just used like human nylon stockings, which I sewed around the legs. They're plenty stretchy, so it's easy to take them on and off. Unfortunately, they're plenty stretchy, which means the sewing is not great, and some of the sort of back stitches were too far apart, so they like created holes, and then I had to patch them up, and then it's fine. I fixed it mostly in the end. I found a whole bunch of ribbons and lace in my stuff recently. Well, while I was looking for it for this project. I actually like went to the store looking for lace, couldn't find any, got home and found a bunch that was like totally usable for this project in my stash. The original legs has this sort of ribbed texture down the handle for grip, I guess. So I put the rows of lace and ribbons on the, I don't know, thorax of the fishing rod to mimic that. I also wanted to cover up some spots where paint and glue had gotten onto the black part and were really obvious. I also put this ribbon high up on the pole where the original one has like tape or string or something holding her together, so the ribbon is meant to like reference that. And it's a nice little pop of red for her. And of course I had to add a little bit of lace at the top of the stockings, which I sewed on while they were on her to be secure, and I haven't taken off, and I probably won't take off, possibly ever, unless I completely redo them. Technically, these are removable, but one thing that I didn't show was that I actually painted the top of her legs. Basically, the vinyl was getting so scuffed up, I felt like painting it was the only way to make it look nice again, and I couldn't paint it perfectly the same color, although it is very close. I didn't paint the bottom half of her legs though, so if she takes the tights off, it'll be really obvious where the paint stops. So even though the tights are removable, again, not removing them unless I decide to replace them like permanently. But like they technically are removable, just not advisable unless I have an extra pair of stockings. She also has underwear. I gave her underwear because if she's gonna have the bottom torso of the Barbie, it would be weird for her to not have underwear. They are partially glued on, although it's just hot glue on plastic, so this is also somewhat removable as well if I ever want to change it. It's not as like permanent as the super glue or something. Without the glue, the underwear were too prone to slipping back and forth because they're made out of like a super stretchy, they're made of the tights material, which is super stretchy, to get them over her giant circular hips. Anyways, time for assembly because she's pretty much complete, so I'll see you in the reveal. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at my own reveal because I just thought it was really funny. I have had a lot of fun making the doll. When she walks back and forth, my favorite thing about her is that the circle that sort of holds up the fishing rod, her entire torso, so it can spin, but it's tight enough to the circles that make up the hips that she actually turns from side to side while she walks, which is very funny. It's just everything about her is so funny. I love it. This project was very silly for me to do, but I liked it a lot. I love glam legs. She's very stylish while also being a fishing rod with legs. So there's that. Let me know if you liked this iteration of legs, what you think of her. I guess. I'm sorry, it's not even that late. It's just, she's so funny. I'm like playing with her right now. I wish I had been able to get her fishing line to like retract and stuff. It's just wrapped around the top of the Barbie body waist. So I can't really like reel her in and out, but at least she can pose her legs pretty well. And her rod can both rotate around the waist and it can tilt up and down, which gives her a nice amount of posability for a doll that has no head or arms. Yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Thank you to my Ko-fi supporters, Retrogate Crafts, Luca, Gabby Rose, and Serendipity. And I'll see y'all next time. I'll see you in the next one. Farewell and goodbye. He gets to be removed? He gets to be removed. Oh yes he does. He gets to be removed from the set. Oh my